Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello, my guest is Joyce Kristiansson. She is an environmental professional with more than 35 years of experience. She is founder of Kristiansson EHS Solutions, and she's a Texas Master Naturalist, as well as being author of The Last Straw, Change Your Life and the Planet for Good. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm glad to be here.
I had fun reading your book because you combined your personal approach to improving one's personal, mental, and physical state so that we're more prepared to tackle the environmental changes that are necessary and to take care of our planet. You combine your suggestions as how to help yourself with suggestions of how we can take simple but important changes that will have an impact on our environment. Let's start with the 10 different weeks of change that you suggest. What are they?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Nancy. It's like a sustainability self-help book. Until you take care of yourself, you can't really take care of the planet. So the 10 weeks are starting with sleep, then play, getting play back into our lives, our natural way of being, how we spend time and money so we can invest it where we really want, serving others, shedding some of the negative baggage that we have, and hopefully all of that allows us to stretch ourselves and be able to accommodate some new habits, make space, and then ultimately just share with everybody.
It is so important that we do feel good about ourselves, have the energy to make the change, and you encourage people to accept science, to look at the facts, to look at the problems, to help decide what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is a brief note on science at the end. It gets pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. But generally, I would say find the science and don't just accept what you maybe first read, but delve into it. What are the source documents? Is there an agenda? Follow the money, all of these things. And just recognize also that science does change. It should change and evolve as time goes on.
I found it intriguing that you spent many different pages suggesting ways to take care of one's body, one's mental state, and then you have how to take care of the environment. And you focus on some simple solutions, but important solutions. Swapping plastic grocery bags with reusable cloth bags, using reusable mugs instead of styrofoam coffee cups. And of course, like the name of your book, The Last Straw, not using plastic straws.
Yeah, these are little things. You could certainly argue that while we have a role, some of the companies maybe have a greater role to be responsible for their product and not have it just be single use and make sure we've got cradle to grave management for it. The things that we can do in our own life are make some small changes. Sometimes we think, well, it's not that big a deal. I don't really see the impact. But, just multiply it by the number of people in the developed countries, the number of people in the United States. Then it becomes a very, very big impact.
You summarize in the end the shifts and swaps that are needed, and you cover everything from what to do when you're shopping to what to change in the kitchen, around the house, around the yard, when dining out, dining in, what to eat, what not to eat, what kind of transportation to use. It all adds up, doesn't it?
It really does. The best thing about all of this is the way we handle ourselves can influence others. They might ask questions, or they might see what you're doing and think, oh, maybe I should do that too. One of the most important points in my book is that you can't shame anyone into better habits, at least not sustainable better habits, but you might be able to positively influence them. It's as much a mental shift as it is an actual shift of your behaviors.
We definitely need to get reminded of what we need to do.
Yeah, so one of the ones is make it easier. For example, you're like, I don't have time for recycling. Maybe there's a way that you can set it up so it's just as simple to throw that in a recycling bin, that item that needs to be recycled, as it is to a trash can. And then maybe another thing that you can do is make it cheaper. There's 3 legs to the sustainability stool, right? Environment, social, financial. And sustainability only works when all 3 legs are there. A good example of making it cheaper might be carpooling to work with someone else. And then another way is one I've borrowed from quality management systems. If there's something that you'd like to do, right, because you know it's the right thing, but you're really struggling with it, and you just start by asking 5 whys. And it really doesn't have to be 5. A great example is I have a client that I work for that started using all reusable mugs. They had those for their employees, but as a consultant coming in, I would arrive and I would forget, and I didn't have anything to get water out of. So why do I keep forgetting my mug that I have from home, my water bottle, reusable water bottle? And so I just start asking myself, okay, well, why is that? Well, it's because after you wash it, you put it in the cabinet. Why does that matter? Because when I put it in the cabinet, I don't see it. Okay, why does that matter? Because I'm very much big on visual cues. And so suddenly you can see where that goes. If I just wash it and stick it back in the car, put it in my computer bag, stick it out somewhere, then I can see it. And suddenly it's like this thing that seemed like a struggle is now really easy.
I solved that by having many. One in my briefcase, one in my car, one in my refrigerator. It is easy to forget, like we used to forget taking tote bags into the store, but at a certain point, certain habits change and we get accustomed to doing things more ecologically and sustainably. You have been helping companies improve their environmental performance through self-sustaining management systems. How can those be more sustainable?
I'm glad you asked that. That is one of the joys of my work, is helping companies have an environmental management system and then improve it. And as part of that system, we go in and we audit them every year. So we help them see where are you conforming to the standards. There are some other things that they can do that maybe aren't that hard but have a much bigger impact. Every state's different with its electricity regulation, but Texas is called a power to choose state. It's deregulated. There's good and there's bad from that. We know because we just went through a massive freeze.
And the energy problem wasn't due to wind and solar. We've got to make that clear.
Absolutely not. It was a lack of winterization, because obviously in the Scandinavian countries and the northern part of the U.S., they're using wind power and they're using solar power, and it's all doing exactly what it needs to do. During that freeze, we had issues with our natural gas system, which Texas has lots of natural gas, but we hadn't winterized. The nuclear hadn't been winterized. Wind turbines never winterized because we think we don't get cold in Texas. Of course, solar did exactly what solar's supposed to do. It went up during the day and down at night. We had plenty of sun. But one thing that you can do, and I've done this in my home, you can choose 100% renewables. So all of my power for my home is from solar, wind, similar types of renewables. And we got an electric side-by-side for some property we have. We plug it in. It's also under the renewables. And so companies can do this, and it used to be, this is part of the make it cheaper, right? It used to be you'd look at that and you go, ooh, that's too expensive. That's much more expensive than just continuing with coal or something like that. But prices have come down. It's incredibly economical now. There's just no good reason not to.
And of course, you have so many other suggestions in your book. You are a Texas master naturalist, and you believe that to see nature is to love nature, that we need to love the small and the big things, the animals, the plants. How is that incorporated into sustainability practices?
When we get disconnected from nature, not to mention kind of the mental impact, negative mental impact on us, we kind of stop seeing things. And if we don't see the nature, we're not going to see the impact. So it's exactly as you said. You've got to see it first. And I don't mean you have to go to a park or you have to go to the Grand Canyon. You have to go somewhere big. You can go right in your backyard. Ever there's anything green, if there's a tree. And if you can start appreciating just the little things, the lizards, the insects, the butterflies, the moths, the frogs. This morning, I was so happy to see a red-eared slider turtle going from one pond to another as I took my walk. If you can see it, then you'll start appreciating it. You'll start loving it. Anything we love, we want to protect. And then suddenly, all these things that seem like, well, this is a big hassle, it's like, no. I'm picking up those cigarette butts because I know that nicotine is carcinogenic and it's hazardous, and that's the same if it's in the environment or if it's going in your lungs. I want to protect nature. I want to protect the wildlife, so I'm willing to take that small step.
What I enjoyed about reading The Last Straw, Change Your Life and the Planet for Good, is that it was inspirational. And even for those of us like myself who's been working for decades to save the environment are aware of some of the things that we should be doing in our own home and office and school, it's still helpful to be reminded of the changes that we should do and how to take care of ourselves so that we can be better activists. You obviously picked this plastic straw issue as a main focus. Why?
It's one of those mindless habits that we have. The straws are everywhere. We're seeing horrific pictures of them stuck up turtle noses. We know that all this plastic is ending up in the ocean and staying there. And then we take a product that we use one time, but it lasts forever almost in the environment. And when it breaks down, it's suddenly getting into these itty-bitty nanoparticles that we're finding are being taken by the phytoplankton, and which is the basic foundation for the food web. And so we're finding it in the larger organisms, the fish, the things we eat in mother's milk. I mean, you name it. So it just seems to me to be emblematic of the whole issue.
I want to thank you so very much for your good work, and also thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Nancy. I loved it.
I have been speaking with Joyce Kristiansson, who is founder of Kristiansson EHS Solutions and author of The Last Straw, Change Your Life and the Planet for Good. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.